Hello, a pleasant afternoon to our students and welcome to the Nursing Informatics second week. So this is our second week of our Nursing Informatics session. So at this point, we're going to discuss very exciting concepts about nursing informatics. So we will be having the history of nursing vis-a-vis, of course, computers. We'll also be talking about some of the basics that some of you might already forgot. And of course, the third and the last discussion for this afternoon will be on the exciting world of electronic health records. Okay, so at this point, so we would like to make some sort of clarification to you guys, right? So this is the special online summer term for the Our Lady of Fatima University. And because of this kind of pandemic, so we will be adjusting to the new normal. And as discussed during, of course, the orientation, so we will be having 80% pedagogy. So that is more of your independent learning. And of course, 20% instructor present. So I do understand that in your registration card, you have 2 to 3 schedules of nursing informatics per week. Okay, so we will not do lessons. So we will not do synchronous sessions like just like this one in Zoom every now and then because we're very much aware that you will be requiring a lot of data to be online most of the time. And for most of you, it's not only nursing informatics that you're enrolled at. So we will be utilizing the 80% pedagogy and 20% instructor present. So when we say independent learning, so we prepared your modules for you guys. So we prepared your modules for you guys. So even before the start of SOST. So please independently learn the modules, especially the study guide. Then, of course, we will be scheduling a session for all of the session for Zoom. We will be highlighting the most highlighting those that, of course, emphasized. It will be emphasized in your major examinations. And we will also be sharing our experiences to you as nurse informaticists. Okay? So I hope we're making it clear that we will not do Zoom sessions most of the time, but we're here for you 24/7 if you have questions or if you have inquiries that you would like us to answer. So one way of looking at that is this. So 80% you will be working on your Canvas. So you can access your Canvas through your mobile phones. You can access your Canvas, of course, in your laptops for some of you who have desktops. And we will be having 20% instructor presence. So we're here for you through synchronous sessions on Zoom. And we're also here for you from our social networking sites as well. Okay, so just to clarify then, no, especially in terms of your deliverables per week, don't worry because every Sunday, we are posting a lot of reminders to you guys. So every Sunday, we're posting the video, okay? And for this session, it will be recorded and will be posted tomorrow. Okay, during Sunday, we're actually sending you a lot of announcements to remind you what are the deliverables for that particular week. Okay, so for example, the one that we sent to you last Sunday, so we send this to all of the sections. So for example, we remind you of the 5 tasks that you need to accomplish for week 2, and that is between June 15 onwards. Okay, so June 15 up to Friday or Saturday. Okay, so the first task has something to do with, of course, you need to independently study your course unit 1, course unit 2, and course unit 3 that can be found on week 1, week 2, and week 3 at Canvas. Okay? Because SOST is only 6 weeks and we have 15 course units, so you need to you need to independently learn 3 course modules per week. Okay, number 2, so attend synchronous sessions just like this one, guys. So attend synchronous sessions just like this one. So just some sort of reminders. Please, when you register for your Zoom sessions, make it early. For example, you received the announcement last Sunday. So you make sure that you register immediately after because we're going to approve it, right? And please don't forget to use your what? So to use your official email address of OLFU. So your email address is with the extension at student.fatima.edu.ph. It's not at fatima.student. So it starts with student at student@fatima.edu.ph. So for some of you who are, of course, having problems with registration, so it might as well you're actually using a different email. Okay. So another task would be to answer the multiple choice questions at weeks 1 to 3. At the end of each section, so you have there, of course, your multiple choice questions. So these are 10 items. Is that correct, Ma'am Campbell? Ma'am Campbell? Okay. So we have 10
Yes, sir.
items. Yes. Okay. So we have 10 items. Okay. So we have 10 items for each week. So you need to accomplish, of course, from week 1, week 2, and week 3. Okay. Then we already posted, of course, questions to your discussion board. So make sure that you have an entry there. So it means that you are logging into your Canvas because we can monitor how many times have you spent, for example, in Canvas and what did you do for that particular duration. And the last task would be to answer the course unit task. And the course unit task, we make it more simple. Okay, so you will not. This will replace the course tasks that are mentioned in your modules, right? So instead of having so many questions, so we limit it to 3 questions na lang. So for example, for number 1, you need to choose among the 6 time periods in nursing, and what do you think is the period where we can consider it as a golden age in nursing. And if you will be creating an electronic health record for the Philippines, what special feature are going to include? For example, we are aware of the different softwares, and we have some sort of wishes on, for example, in terms of gaming, no? So you have game softwares that there are some features that you want to be included in there. So the similar to that. And you need to write an essay based on the main theme. So you need to accomplish 5 tasks for this week. And I know most of you already has accomplished a lot of tasks from task 1 to task 5. Okay. So I hope we made it clear. And just a reminder for us students, when our session starts at 5, please log in 15 minutes before or at least 5 minutes before 5, because sometimes when we're doing, of course, lectures, a lot of students are still wanting to be admitted, no? So sometimes it actually breaks the momentum of the discussion. So hopefully by the following weeks, so we're going to log in earlier. Okay, so this afternoon session is very interesting. Why? Because we have 3 objectives that we need to accomplish. Okay, so number 1, we need to describe the history of nursing and the computers. Okay, so this will be discussed by Ma'am Sheila. So number 2, explore the hardware system. So this is very basic, but of course, some of you might have forgotten some of these concepts. And of course, we also need to discuss a lot about, of course, electronic health records. Okay, electronic health records, because when you say nursing informatics, so one of the best examples of the products of nursing informatics would be, of course, your electronic health records. Again, class, what is EHR? EHR refers to electronic health records. Okay, very good. What is EHR again? Electronic health records. Okay, electronic health records. Okay, so at this point, let us make it more interactive, guys. So at this point, okay, so let us take a look at our first objective, and that is to describe the history of nursing and the computers. And at this point, I would like, of course, to request Ma'am Sheila Muhimulta to discuss this one.
Hello there, students. Our first topic for this nursing informatics course would be the historical overview of nursing and computer. Try to be time travelers for this session. Initially, our objectives are 1. Define nursing informatics, clinical information systems, and other terminologies related to the study of nursing informatics. 2. Track historical foundation of computers in practice of the nursing profession as to 6 time periods, 4 major nursing areas, standard initiatives, and significant landmark events. 3. Identify international institutions dedicated to the improvement of nursing informatics in a global perspective. Kindly take note of these objectives in order for you to perfectly answer the short quiz after this session. Let us start to discuss the connection of computer with nursing by defining nursing informatics. According to IMIA, or International Medical Informatics Association, it refers to the integration of nursing, its information management, with information processing and information technology to support the health of the people worldwide. Moreover, the ANA, or American Nurses Association, defines nursing informatics as a specialty that integrates nursing, computer, and information science to manage and communicate data, information, and knowledge in nursing practice. Accordingly, it facilitates the integration of data, information, and knowledge to support patients, nurses, and other providers in their decision-making in all roles and settings. This support is accomplished through the use of information structures, processes, and information technology. Let us have a view of the past, or the major historical perspective of nursing. Remember, we are talking about nursing plus computer is equal to nursing informatics.
There are actually four major historical perspectives of nursing and computers. First is the 6 time period. Second is the 4 major nursing areas. Third is the standard initiatives. And fourth would be the significant landmarks.
Let us start with the 6 time period, which comprises of years from 1960 to year 2000. Did you know that prior to 1960, computers were first developed in the late 1930s to early 1940s, but use in the healthcare industry occurred in the 1950s. Few experts attempted to adapt computers to healthcare. During this period, the image of nursing profession is undergoing changes. Initially, computers were used for business office transactions. Some examples are punch cards to store data and card readers for computer programs, sorting and preparation of data for processing. They were linked together and operated by paper tape and used teletypewriters to print their output. As computer technology advanced, healthcare technologies improved. Next, during the 1960s, there were issues in nursing informatics researches. The use of computer technology in healthcare setting began to be questioned. Questions like what kind of data should be entered in computers, nursing standards were reviewed, and resources were analyzed. Such as cathode ray tubes. I am showing an open CRT monitor here and the one with the case. Anybody have seen this kind of monitor? I doubt it, but I do. HISs were primarily developed to process financial transactions. Computer vendors were beginning to penetrate the healthcare field, but progress is slow. The giant leap for nursing information came during the late 1960s through 1970s. Hospitals began developing computer-based information systems, which initially focused on physician order entry and results reporting, pharmacy, laboratory and radiology reports, information for financial and managerial purposes, physiologic monitoring systems in ICUs, and a few systems started to include care planning, decision support, and interdisciplinary problem lists. Thus, nurses begin to recognize the value of the computer for their profession. Nurses even assisted in the design of HISS, or the Hospital Information Support System. Computer applications for financial and management functions of patient care systems were perceived as cost-saving technologies. Several states and large community health agencies in the U.S. developed their own computer-based management information system, or MISS. Then came the year 1980 when nursing informatics emerged. NI became an accepted specialty and many nursing experts entered the field. The need for nursing software evolved, and nursing education identified the need to update practice standards, determine data standards, vocabularies, and classification schemes that could be coded for computer-based patient record system or the CPRs. And by the year 1990, there was already an affirmation of nursing informatics as a specialty field. So 1990 was the start when computer technology became an integral part of the healthcare setting, nursing practice, and nursing profession. NI was approved by the American Association of Nurses, or ANA, as a new nursing specialty. And the need for computer-based nursing practice standards, data standards, nursing minimum data sets, and national databases emerged concurrently with a need for a unified nursing. Accordingly, post-2000, rapid growth and development of NI transpired. Development of wireless point of care, open source solutions, regional database projects, and increased IT solutions on healthcare environment. Clinical information systems become individualized in the EPR, or electronic patient record. Mobile computing devices were also started to utilize in healthcare. And HIPAA, or the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996, was enacted. As a result, standardized transaction and code sets were implemented to protect security and ensure privacy and confidentiality of the healthcare data. So that was the end of the 6th time period. Now, about the 4 major nursing areas, we have first, nursing practice. Data emerged with the introduction of several nursing terminologies usable for the EHR, or electronic health record, sometimes called HER, that is health electronic record. So there is already integration of NCPs, patient care data, nursing practice itself as part of the EHR or HER. Next area would be nursing administration, workload measures, acuity systems, and other nursing department systems are online and integrated with the hospital or patient's electronic health record system. Moreover, we have digital libraries, online resources, and research protocols at bedside. In nursing education, computer-enhanced courses, online courses, and/or distance education. In addition, campus-wide computer systems are available for students, as well as new educational teaching methodologies and strategies. And last but not the least, the area of nursing research. Databases supporting nursing research emerge. There is now online access to millions of web resources around the world. Now, we will discuss the standard initiatives. First, under Nursing Practice and Education Standards, we have ANA, American Nurses Association, considered as the official nursing organization that contributes in the development and recommendation of standards of nursing practice worldwide. Another is JCAHO, or the Joint Commission on Accreditation of Hospital Organizations, which focuses on the need for adequate records and patients in hospital and practice of standards in documentation of care. And of course, we have the PNA, Philippine Nurses Association, founded on September 2, 1922, member of the International Council for Nurses. It instigated the standardization of the nursing profession in the Philippines, and the Board of Nursing, of course, or the BON, is empowered by RA 9173, otherwise known as the Philippine Nursing Act of 2002. For the nursing data standard, it emerged as a new requirement for health electronic record. There are 13 nursing terminologies that have been recognized by the American Nurses Association for this 4th edition. And about confidentiality and security standards, increasing access through electronic capture and exchange of information raised concerns about the privacy and security of personal health information, or the PHI. That is why the Health Information Technology for Economic and Clinical Health, or the HITECH, or HITECH Act of 2009 included the provisions for strengthening the original HIPAA, or Health Insurance Portability and Accountability legislation, like in patient consent, and increased penalties for security breaches. Now, on our last historical perspective, we have the significant landmarks. These are the significant landmarks during 1960s to 1980s. As early as 1961, HIMSS was founded. In 1977, we had the first research. It was the state-of-the-art conference on nursing information system at Chicago, and then another first international conference at Bethesda on 1981. First teleconference at Melbourne, Australia occurred on the year 1995, and at 2001, there is emerging group status of the Canadian Informatics Nurses Association. And last 2003, the President calls for a widespread adaptation of HER in 10 years. Do you know the President of the United States who adapted this? No, it was not Trump, it was Barack Obama. So we are done with the 4 major historical perspectives of nursing informatics. Let us go back to the present. Thank you and good day.
Okay, so let's go back to the present times. Okay, so so as we can see, nursing history is actually runs parallel with the history of computers. So at this point, go now to the second topic, and it is all about, of course, the basics of computer hardware. So at this point, may I call again Ma'am Sheila Muhimulta for the discussion.
Hello everyone. For this session, I will be talking about computer and the computer hardware.
Our unit expected outcomes are: describe a computer system, understand milestones in the history of computers, understand the 3 classes of computers, enumerate key and extended hardware components of a computer system as to input device, output device, and storage media. Understand 4 basic operations of the Central Processing Unit, or the CPU. Describe methods of measuring computer power. What is a computer? It's defined as a machine that is capable of performing a sequence of arithmetic and logic operations. And the following: it is electronic, it is automatic, it can manipulate data, it has memory, it has logic functions, it can store and retrieve information, it can control error and check itself. But a computer cannot derive meaning from objects and cannot correct wrong instructions. As our thought of the day, say GIGO, or GIGO. What does it stand for? There is a saying in computer science, GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. It is an acronym that implies bad input will result in bad output. A universal computer science concept, but it only applies to programs that process invalid data. According to George Futzel, an IBM programmer and instructor, it is a concise way of reminding his students that the computer just processes what is given. The quality of output is determined by the quality of the input. Example, If a mathematical equation is improperly stated, the answer is unlikely to be correct. Got it? Guys, okay? GIGO. Now, let us discuss the computer components. We have hardware, which are the tangible parts of the computer. Then the software. These are any sequence of instructions that make it easier to communicate with computers. Also, these are programs that govern the operation of the computer that make the hardware productive. And of course, the peopleware or personnel. These are the users or people who work with the computer, and they can be the members of the healthcare team. Next, the classification of computers are analog. Analog technology records waveforms as they are, uses physical characteristics of materials to show measurement. Example, clock, thermometer, or sphygmomanometer. Next is digital. It converts analog waveforms into set of numbers and records them. The numbers are converted into voltage stream for representation. Example, digital clock, digital thermometer, and digital sphygmomanometer. Then we have the hybrid. It combines the measuring capabilities of analog and logical and control capabilities of digital computers. Now, let's move on to the types of computer. First is supercomputer. It is an extremely fast computer that can perform hundreds of millions of instructions per second. Uses power to execute a few programs as fast as possible. Mainframes. A powerful multi-user computer capable of supporting many hundreds or thousands of users simultaneously. It also uses power to execute more programs concurrently. Then we have the mini computer, which is a multi-user computer capable of supporting up to hundreds of users simultaneously. It is a smaller version of mainframes or supercomputers. Next, the workstation, which is for engineering applications, publishing, software development. It has moderately high power but high quality graphics, high resolution screen, large RAM or random access memory, a large mass storage device. It is a single-user computer but typically linked together with other workstations to form a local network. And of course, we have now the personal computer. It is small, inexpensive computer designed for individual users. With various powers depending on price, we have desktop, tower, laptop, notebook, palm top, PDA or personal digital assistant, pocket computer, handheld computer, smartphones, and tablets. So what are the computer types again? We have supercomputer, mainframes, mini computer, workstation, and of course, personal computer. Very good. Now let us see the history of computers. See this? What is this? It is an abacus, also called a counting frame. It is a calculating tool. It is the first known calculator. It was invented in Babylonia during 2400 BC. It was used primarily in parts of Asia for performing arithmetic processes. Punch cards date back to the late 18th and early 19th century when they were used to program cloth-making machineries. Then this one is a difference engine, which are strictly calculators. They crunch numbers the only way they know. Aside from the difference engine, Charles Babbage had another invention, which is the analytical engine. It is much more than a calculator and marks the progression from the mechanized arithmetic of calculation to fully fledged general-purpose computation. Then, Herman Hollerith, an American engineer and inventor, made a major breakthrough that paved the way for the invention of the modern digital computer. He invented a punch card system in 1890, first used widely by the federal government. That was the beginning of all modern data processing in business. The history of computer goes back several decades, and there are 5 definable generations of computers. Each generation is defined by a significant technological development that changes fundamentally how computers operate, leading to more compact, less expensive, but more powerful, efficient, and robust machines. Now, for the first generation computers, these were normally based around wired circuits containing vacuum valves and used punch cards as the main non-volatile storage medium. Another general-purpose computer of this era was ENIAC, that's Electronic Numerical Integrator and Computer, which was completed in 1946. The next major step in the history of computing was the invention of the transistor in 1947. This replaced the inefficient valves with a much smaller and more reliable component. Transistorized computers are normally referred to as second generation and dominated the late 1950s and early 1960s. Despite using transistors and printed circuit, these computers were still bulky and strictly the domain of universities and governments. The explosion in the use of computer began with the third generation computers. This relied Jack St. Clair Kilby's invention, the integrated circuit or the microchip. The first integrated circuit was produced in September 1958, but computers using them didn't begin to appear until 1963. While large mainframes such as the IBM 360 increased storage and processing capabilities further, the integrated circuit allowed the development of mini-computers that began to bring computing into many smaller businesses. Large-scale integration of circuits led to the development of very small processing units. In the Intel 8008 chip developed in 1972 located all the components of the computer from the central processing unit and memory to input-output controls on a single chip. Fourth-generation computers were developed using a microprocessor to locate much of the computer's processing abilities on a single small chip. Nowadays, the first-generation computers that filled an entire room could now fit in the palm of the hand. Supercomputers of the era were immensely powerful, like the Cray-1, which could calculate 150 million floating-point operations per second. The microprocessor allowed the development of microcomputers, personal computers that were small and cheap enough to be available to ordinary people. This time, let us discuss computer hardware, the physical components of the machine itself. These are CPU, memory, input devices, output devices, and the storage media. CPU, or Central Processing Unit, is the brain of the computer that consists the following: Arithmetic and Logic Unit, or ALU, controls mathematical x plus 1 and logic functions if x is equal to 2, then Control Unit, or CU, carries out the machine language called fetch, execute, decode, and store. For the memory component, we have RAM, are the random access memory, which is the working memory used for primary storage. It is volatile and interchangeable. Temporary storage content of RAM is lost whenever the power is turned off. And the ROM, or read-only memory, it refers to computer memory chips containing permanent or semi-permanent data. Unlike RAM, ROM is non-volatile. Even after you turn off your computer, the contents of ROM will remain. Then, still under memory, CPU register is one of a small set of data holding places that are part of the computer processor. A register may hold an instruction, a storage address, or any kind of data such as a bit sequence or individual characters. Then the cache is a smaller, faster memory located closer to a processor core, which stores copies of the data from frequently used main memory locations. Next, the input devices allows computer to receive data from outside source. Those are keyboard, set of typewriter-like keys that enables you to enter data into the computer. Mouse, hand-controlled device for interacting with the computer screen. Light pen, light-sensitive device, shaped like pen used to draw on the computer screen to make selections. Voice input, uses microphone to access computer without using keyboard or mouse. Other input devices are scanner, device that reads prints and converts it into a graphic image on the computer. Webcam, camera that records video. Others, we have touchscreen, gamepad controller, and fingerprint retinal image scanner. Output devices allows computer to report its result to external world in the form of text, graphics, signals, or sounds. Under output devices, we have monitors and projectors, uses screen for visual display of information. Printer, makes images appear on a medium like on a paper. Earphones and speakers, uses sound waves to be heard by the user. Vibration or haptic feedback uses touch to communicate with the user. Lastly, we have the storage media. These are devices where programs or data are stored for recovery. First, we have the hard disk or the external hard drive. Has very high speed and density. It is the main storage of computers. Then we have the diskette. It has round magnetic disk inside, but this is now obsolete. Still in the storage media, we have the CD, DVD, Blu-ray, which is a rigid disk that holds more density than diskettes, therefore has more capacity. And of course, the USB disk, a small removable hard drive that is inserted into the USB port, synonymous to pen drive, thistle drive, and pocket disk. Computers do not process information as words or numbers. They handle information as byte that is made up of 8 bits. The term bits and bytes refer to how the machine stores information at the lowest or closest to machine registers and memory level. The following definitions and conversions are necessary for the discussion. So bit is short for binary digit, is a unit of data in the binary number system. It means 2, so a bit can assume any of 2 positions. While byte, a group of 8 bits. Bits are grouped into a collection of 8, which then functions as a byte. Byte conversion table is presented here. So 1 bit is 1 character, 1 byte is 8 bits, 1000 byte is 1 kilobyte, 1000 kilobyte is 1 megabyte, and 1000 megabyte is 1 gigabyte. A short evaluation. Tell me if it is an input device or output device. Flat panel display. Speaker. Keyboard. Mouse. That's all for today. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much, Ma'am Sheila, and of course to our instructors. So just a reminder for our students. So if you have questions, so you can post it at the question and answer box or at the chat box, and your clinical instructors will be happy to, of course, answer your queries on any topics that are included for week 1, week 2, or of course, week 3. Okay, so at this point, let us talk about electronic health records. So if you're going to ask if you're going to ask your faculty members regarding the most significant output in nursing informatics, uh, our answer would be, of course, electronic health records. So electronic health records are very much pervasive in other countries, but of course, in the Philippines, there are very few hospitals that are uh, operating on electronic health records. So for example, for St. Luke's, they are gradually adopting the paperless system. For Fatima University Medical Center, they also have, of course, gradually adopting. They started first on the services that can be, of course, offered to the patient. Okay, so at this point, I would like to share with you some of our experiences. So let's go to Japan. Okay, so I want you to meet, guys, the most handsome nurse that I met in Japan. And this is inside the operating room. Okay, so this is inside the operating room. As you can see, the operating room in Japan is very much different from what we have here in the Philippines, because aside from the supplies, aside from the equipment, they have computers inside. So for example, you can see here is, of course, you have the laptops and the desktop on the farther side of the slide. So inside those computers, so there are electronic health records installed. So for example, if I want to know about the health details of my client, okay, so I can just log in at that particular computer and I can easily access the information of my patient. Okay, so let's go back to the Philippines now. So if there are no electronic health records for most of the hospitals in the Philippines, what are we using? So this is what we are using. Okay, so this picture is very much familiar to us nurses, especially those who had duties previously in government hospitals. Ano? So for example, this is one of the pictures that we took in one of the hospitals in the Philippines. So for anonymity, we will not, of course, disclose the name of the hospital. And this particular picture will paint 1,000 words for us. It tells us a lot of problems or challenges that we might encounter in the clinical area. So for example, according to research, 11% of laboratory tests are lost and reordered. So this is true. Nurses spend 30% most of their time doing charting and documentation. So for example, previously when I was working in the hospital, so my duty is between 7 to 3, and almost 1/3 of that, I spend that for charting, for nurses charting. So meaning that physically writing, of course, records for the patient, the things that I have rendered to the patient. So I need to record that at the patient's chart. And 50% of paper-based records are either missing or incomplete. And that is true. 30% of nursing interventions, believe it or not, according to research, these are not recorded. Okay, so because nurses are very much busy. So for example, if you have more than 10 patients in a particular ward, so you need to write the notes for each of the patient chart. And there are some interventions that some nurses are actually forgetting to input at the patient's chart. So in some developed countries and developing countries, just like the Philippines, so some hospitals are gradually converting into what we call the electronic format. So with the use of the electronic health records, So the tasks of nurses and other members of the healthcare team are becoming much easier. So according to Collins and Wagner, the use of EHR seems to be inevitable in modern society. And most hospitals in developed countries are gradually adopting the paperless system. And of course, the developing countries are catching up with those developments. So what really is the problem with paper-based records? Because here in the Philippines, most of the hospitals are using paper-based records. So what are some of the challenges that we might encounter? So I call it the big paper-based health record problem. Okay, so these are the problems that we can encounter if we will still be using the paperless records. So number one, illegible and incomplete. And this is very much common in the Philippines. So for example, if you're going to take a look at the doctor's order, there are some instances that you cannot easily apprehend or understand what the doctor would like you to do because of their handwriting, right? So there are those healthcare providers that are good in handwriting, and there are those healthcare providers that are bad in handwriting, especially for doctors. We know that doctors are very much busy, and when they write, sometimes they are expecting you that you're understanding their handwriting, but in most cases we are not. So number two, difficult to access in one place. If I'm using the paper-based records, other health members of the healthcare team cannot use it, right? Or if they are using it and I want to access the patient chart, so I cannot do that because somebody is using it. And number three, I think this is the most crucial part. The use of paper-based records in hospitals may not be secured for unauthorized uses and users. Unlike, for example, if you're going to use the electronic health record, so before you can log in, you need to input your username and password, a password that only you, of course, know, right? So, but if that is a paper-based, so if I get the chart of the patient, even if I'm not authorized to look at that, so I can do that, especially if the paper-based records are not guarded. Okay, so at this point, let us take a look at some of the definitions. Okay, so earlier, we presented to you electronic health records. And Ma'am Sheila also earlier discussed something about clinical information systems. So what is the difference between electronic health record and clinical information systems aside from the spelling? Okay, so when we say electronic health records, it is a repository or a collection, a hub of electronically maintained information about an individual's lifetime health status. So when we talk about lifetime health status, all your health records are there from womb to tomb. So electronic health records, so this is actually a national initiative for some of the countries. So their governments are having this national electronic health record initiative wherein all the residents of that particular country should have a record in that particular software or portal. So for us healthcare providers, it's very easy to use. Why? Because, for example, a certain patient will be admitted in the hospital. I don't need to ask anymore a lot of information because I can access that on the electronic health record, right? So meaning this is more comprehensive because it houses your health information from the moment that you're born up to now. Whereas, when we talk about clinical information system, this is used for hospitals to store temporary data. Okay, so for example, when you're admitted in a certain hospital, for example, Fatima University Medical Center, so, and we are using a clinical information system, I can store your information at the moment that you're admitted until discharge. And the hospital has the option whether to remove your data after 5 years or 10 years. So this is some sort of temporary storage that can be used, of course, in the hospitals as well. But if you're going to ask me, I prefer more on the electronic health record as compared with the clinical information system because this is much comprehensive. And of course, the data of the patient can be seen, for example, years ago. Okay, so for example, what are some of the health conditions that our patient had from the previous year? So we can easily access that. So at this point, let us take a look now at the sample screenshots of electronic health record and clinical information system. Okay, on the left side, you can see here, so this is an example of electronic health records. So it looks more complicated as compared with the right one, which is our clinical information system. So again, so electronic health records, the data are more permanent. So it houses the health data of the patient from womb to tomb, or from womb up to the present time. And the picture on the right is an example of the clinical information system, and it houses the data of the patient at the moment that he or she is admitted to the hospital until discharge. And the hospital has an option whether to delete it after 5 years or 10 years. Okay? So let us take a look now at some of the free electronic health records. Okay, because when we talk about software, when you heard the word open source or free libre, okay, free libre open source software, it means free. So we have lots of free softwares out there. We have Google Chrome is a free software. We can download iTunes for free, and that is a free software. So it falls under the FLOSS. When we say FLOSS, it pertains to free libre open source software. So in terms of electronic health record softwares, we also have free softwares for that. And one of the most common is what we call the OEMR. Okay, so OEMR refers to Open Electronic Medical Records. Okay, hospitals can download it for free. Okay, so hospitals can download it for free. And at this point, I would like to introduce to you that in terms of EHR, we are following certain minimum standards before it can be used for nursing, right? So, for example, before you can actually cook sinigang, you need a souring agent. For example, you have your tamarind, you have meat, you have ano pa ba? So you have other vegetables that you want to add. So these are the minimum requirements for you to cook sinigang. But in terms of electronic health records, we have what we call nursing minimum data set, meaning these features should be present on the electronic health record or clinical information system before it can be used in the nursing profession. Okay, so and at this point, I would like to tour you around an example electronic health record. So for example, this is an electronic health record that is being used by most of the hospitals in developing countries. And this is the OpenEMR. And as you can see here, what are the nursing minimum data set? For an electronic health record to be used by the nurses, it should bear, of course, an area wherein you can see or input demographic elements of the patient. Okay? So there should be an area at the electronic health record where the nurse can input demographic data of the patient, just like name, age, gender, residence, etc. So another standard is nursing care elements. There should be an area in your electronic health record where nurses can input their data, their observation, their health assessment, the vital signs of the patient, and to put there some sort of nurses' notes. And last one, for an electronic health record to be used by nurses, okay, also part of the nursing minimum data set is what we call the service element. So when we talk about the service elements, we are referring to the other services of the hospital. For example, when you are admitted, you need the services of the pharmacy, right? So if you are admitted in a certain hospital, you need to know your billing at the cashier section. If you're admitted at the hospital, your patient should also be coordinating with the diet section. Okay, of course for the meals of the patient. So this refers to an area of that electronic health record wherein we can see or input the status of the patient as to miscellaneous hospital services. Okay, so logging in at OpenEMR is very much easy. This is similar to logging into your social networking site. So for example, here, I actually inputted my username, Michael Joe, and my password is there. So when I click login, so this is how it looks like. Okay, so this is very much easy to use. Why? Because before, when we're using paper-based records, we need to write everything. But now, when we do assessments to our client, we just need to click the radio button. Okay, so for example, just like this one, if we're going to do health assessment on the eyes of the patient, so you can just click the radio button. Is there a change in vision for your client? Yes or no? Are there, for example, some sort of irritation at the eyes of your client? Is there presence of double vision? So yes or no. So unlike before, so receive patient, awake on bed, eyes are eyes are symmetrical, for example, there's no change in vision, there's no irritation, there's no discharge from the eyes, etc. So you need to write everything. But with the use of electronic health records, all you need to do is to click um, the important information related to your health assessment. Another common electronic health records for hospitals is what we call the Open MRS. And for me, this is my favorite. Why? Because the interface is very clear. Okay. And how you can log into that? So you just need to type in your username and password. Okay. So you can open there are different options. You can select your patient. You can, of course, input a new patient if that is a new admitted patient. Okay. And it's very much easy. So for example, if you need to input the birth date, you can just scroll and select the appropriate information. Okay. And there are several options there. So for example, if you need to endorse the patient to the physical therapist, so everything is automatic. Once you input the request, so it will be sent automatically to the physical therapy department. So this is very much easy. And when you administer medications to your client, uh, this inputting the data would be very breeze for you guys. Why? Kasi for example, all the medications available at the hospital is already there. You just need to click what medication did you gave your patient and the dose of the medication that you administered to your client. Okay, so there are also recording options. So, question, is there a national initiative for the Philippines to have this electronic health record? Yes. And I know you are very much familiar with this company. So you know Smart and Globe, right? Okay. Smart Communication is the one who actually promoted the use of um, this kind of softwares in the Philippines. So way back, I think this was in 2007. Okay, so that was me in 2007. So hindi pa uso vitamins, no? Okay, so they promote this software known as the Secured Health Information Network and Exchange, or simply SHINE. Okay, so this was embraced by a lot of healthcare institutions, but it didn't push through. No, it didn't push through because if there's change, there are resistance to people, and if there is, of course, a new technology, you need to acquire a lot of devices, you need to train your people, and a lot of Filipinos are not that comfortable with that. Okay, so if you're going to ask me which particular organization handles, for example, the promotion on the use of electronic health records. So that is UP Manila, specifically the National Telehealth Center. So the National Telehealth Center promotes the use of electronic health records in the barangay level, and they actually developed the software known as the CHEATS. So CHEATS refers to Community Health Information Tracking System. So this is not hospital-based. This is based on the provinces, no? Yung mga local government units for the barangay health centers. So a lot of barangay health centers are using this. So not in Metro Manila, but more on the far-flung areas or the barangay healthcare centers. Okay, so if we're talking about international, there are lots of organizations who are promoting the use of electronic health records. And one of the most famous is Healthcare Information Management System Society, which was mentioned earlier by Ma'am Sheila Muhimulta. I'm a member of that for Asia and the Pacific. So I presented one of my projects in Singapore way back in 2006, no, under the Healthcare Information Management System Society and the Nicholas E. Davis Awards. Okay, Nicholas Davis Awards, that is a group that recognizes individuals and companies who are doing great in terms of electronic health records and any devices or technology that's being used for healthcare settings. So if you want to know more about Nicholas E. Davis Awards, so that is included at your modules. So let's call it a day, guys. So the due for your course task will be this coming Saturday, and we will be giving you another set of reminders this coming Sunday. Okay? So with that, thank you very much, and have a nice dinner, guys.